Today's session is all at 1-3 at Casino Caribbean. I want to introduce you to a foe who's going to have a rough day, and let's just go ahead and call him Benji. Cutoff is an older gentleman, pretty straightforward. He puts in a $15 raise, we make the call, and so does Benji. 3 ways to a flop we go of Queen 4-3. So we've got the good side of open-ended. The initial raiser in the cutoff continues for 20, and I raise up to 60 bucks, not wanting to rely on the turn or river to bail us out. Benji makes the call and the initial raiser folds. We don't see the card that we're looking for, but we do improve on the turn as the 6 of clubs gives us second pair. If I end up betting and getting raised here, I'm going to be in a pretty tricky spot. So considering that I have both a draw and some showdown value, I decide to check. We improve to 3 of a kind as the 6 of spades comes in on the river. Benji puts out a $100 bet and I start weighing my options. I'm definitely not folding, but doesn't make sense to raise. What's going to call me? I think if I raise, the hands that I'm targeting are those with the queen in it. Thinking about Benji's range from pre-flop where he would go ahead and call, he's going to have some suited connectors, he's going to have some low pairs, and maybe some ace-high flush draws. I'm not sure if a queen calls me if I raise. Probably depends on their kicker. But again, if he has something like king-queen or ace-queen, he should have come over the top pre-flop. Considering that he's got some straights and some full houses here, I decide I'm just going to go ahead and put in the call, and Benji shows 4-7 of clubs. So he called my flop raise with just second pair and backdoor draws. So we start the day with nearly a $400 pot, thanks mainly to Benji. And before our next hand, Benji runs pocket kings into pocket aces. That's never fun. And then we look down at ace-king offsuit. Benji raises to 15. 2 players call, and I 3-bet to 85. Benji calls, the other 2 get out of the way, and we're heads up. We go to a flop of queen, queen, 7, a board that probably should favor me, but I think if I bet, I'm getting called by hands that beat me, and I'm probably folding out the hands that I'm ahead of. So with that in mind, it goes check, check. Turn is the 5 of diamonds. I find myself in a similar situation. I check, and Benji stabs at it, putting 75 bucks out there. I make the call, and we get a pretty inconsequential 3 of clubs on the river. I check. Benji tanks, and thankfully he checks it back. I announce ace high. He says he's got the same thing. I turn over ace king, and it takes it down. Nothing crazy on this hand, but just another thorn in the side of Benji, who is now building up the losses. I've got pocket 7s. The $10 button straddle is on, so I raise it up to 25. Benji 3-bets me to 75, and I make the call. We go heads up to a pretty nice flop, 10-7-4, although they are all hearts. Benji bets 75, and considering the monotone flop and the fact that I have middle set, I'm going to go ahead and fast play this. I make it 305 and put all of his overpairs in the blender, or so I think. Benji snap calls. He asks if I have a set, and I nod. Turn is the 3 of clubs, and the river is the 8 of spades. Benji turns over pocket kings with the king of hearts. That is another tough beat. Benji has a rough hour, packs his bags, and decides he doesn't want to play anymore. Tough day for Benji. We take the pot, we crack kings, and we're just rolling on the day. I've got big slick from the small blind. The low jack raises to 15, gets a couple callers, and I 3-bet to 70. Perhaps a little bit on the small side because both the low jack and the cutoff make the call. 3 ways to a flop of ace 9-6 with a couple clubs. I'd rarely ever take this route in 3-5, but at 1-3 there is a lot of fit or fold, and when it gets to one of the players in later position, oftentimes they'll bet just to take it down because they figure if somebody had it, they would have bet. So with that in mind, I decide to try out the check raise strategy once again. I check, the cutoff bets 65, and I check raise to 175. Both players fold, and hopefully we scoop an additional 55 more than we would have made if we would have just bet out on the flop. Let me know in the comments, do you like the strategy of check raising with top pair, top kicker when you're out of position? Or do you think it's something that's a lousy tactic that's just going to end up in my opponents ending up hitting more of their draws because they get cheap access to turns and rivers? Let me know in the comments. Next hand, I've got king, queen on the button. It limps to the cutoff, who makes it 15. This is another older, straightforward player. Against a more aggressive player who's raising with a wider range of hands, I would go ahead and put in the 3-bet. But since I'm in position and I'm going up against a much narrower range, I make the call, and the hijack joins as well. So we're going 3 ways to a pretty good flop of king 3 deuce rainbow. The hijack now donks for 15 bucks, and the initial raiser in the cutoff comes over the top and makes it 45. I don't see him doing this with jacks or queens. He's either got pocket kings, but more likely he's got ace king or aces. I don't like drawing against a hand that has me dominated, even when I'm in position with top pair with a decent kicker. I'm playing my opponent, and I make the nitty fold. The hijack who donked folds as well. Again, I'm never doing this against a more aggressive player, but against someone who rarely puts their money in, top pair with decent kicker just doesn't seem great. We've got Big Slick again from the cutoff. +1 raises to 15, and I 3-bet to 45. +1 puts in the call, and we go heads up to king, queen, 9 with 2 spades. +1 checks, and I continue for a slightly larger sizing on such a connected board, trying to get value from those single pair hands and those hands with a pair plus a gut shot. +1 makes the call, and the turn comes in the 10 of diamonds, now putting a one-liner out there for a straight. My opponent's going to have a lot of jacks in his range. He's also going to have a lot of 2 pairs. So after he checks, I decide to check it back and see a free river. The 8 of hearts comes in, he checks, and I just don't have a good feeling. So I check it back, and he shows queen jack of clubs. Sure enough, he turned the straight and tried trapping me on 2 streets. We wriggle out of the traps. I think we lose the minimum here with top pair against a turned straight. It wouldn't be a 1-3 session without an interesting bomb pot hand. We've got king 10 of diamonds on the button, and get a pretty solid flop. Queen 7-4 with 2 diamonds. Big blind takes the lead for 30, and I am one of 3 callers. Turn comes in the 6 of spades. I don't know why the 6 of spades would spook anybody, but now the big blind slows down, and everyone else checks as well. Is this a chance for me to take down the pot without relying on the river? Yes. But is it also a bomb pot where I'm in position? Also yes. If I happen to get there, I should be able to get some action from others. So I check, see the free river, and it comes in, my favorite card, the Jack of Diamonds. It checks all the way around to me. With a pot of 185, I settle on a price of 115. It folds around to the hijack. He puts in the call, and when that happens, we know we're good. I show the second nuts, and we scoop another medium-sized pot on what's turning out to be a great day of poker. I'm under the gun with pocket 10s and raise to 15 and only get looked up by the small blind. Like the fact that I'm in position with a pretty high pocket pair, and we get a decent flop as it comes in 9 high. I bet half pot for 15, the small blind calls, and we see the turn of the 4 of diamonds. Small blind checks, I bet 35, and he min raises me, making it 70 to go. I'm not really sure what this means. Maybe he's trying to represent 2 pair with something like 6-4 or 5-4. The only new straights are 2-3 or 3-7, neither of which do I think he would play. I'm not sure, but I decide to make the call in position for such a small price. River's the queen of diamonds, and now my opponent checks.
Huh?
His line really makes no sense. I feel like there might be a trap in store. So I check it back, and my opponent turns over queen 9 offsuit. So he put in the small check raise on the turn for what he thought was protecting his top pair with a queen kicker, and he happened to river top 2 pair when the queen rolled in. He then pivoted to getting tricky, trying to set the trap after he just check raised me, and thankfully I didn't fall for it. Very odd hand, and once again, I think we lost the minimum. I'm feeling pretty good about the way things have gone so far today. This hand is not my best. I've got ace-jack offsuit, and we've got another $10 bomb pot. Straight to the flop we go, and we hit top pair on a jack 8-6 board with 2 hearts. I could go either way with checking or betting, and I decide on the latter, I go half pot with top pair, top kicker. The cutoff, who's been more on the aggressive side, makes the call, and the tricky small blind player who just rivered that 2 pair with queen 9 offsuit makes the call as well. So we're going 3 ways to an undesirable turn card, the queen of clubs. Now, what anyone has is totally a guessing game. So I decide I'm just going to keep the pressure on, and if I happen to get raised, I'll just run with my tail between my legs. I make it 100 to go. Again, I don't know if I love this bet. The aggressive cutoff makes the call, and the small blind calls as well. So now I'm just done with this hand. I think the river is good. It's the jack of hearts, but the front door flush gets there. So I think I'm going to go into check call mode. Small blind checks. I check, and the cutoff does not take a stab at it. The small blind turns over black ace queen, which Makes no sense why he called the flop. Why people would make a call out of position in a bomb pot with 2 overcards is unbeknownst to me, but it ended up working out for him as he improved the top pair on the turn, only for me to retake the lead with that jack on the river. I don't know what on earth the cutoff was doing, but we don't care. We're scooping nearly a $500 pot. I don't love how I played this hand, but I will take it. $6 button straddle is on, which I'm not a huge fan of, especially when I'm in the blinds, as I really should only be continuing with premium hands. Thankfully, I look down at one in pocket queens. I raise to 25 and get called by +1 before the cutoff 3-bets to 75. The cutoff only has 117 left, and when the button cold calls his 3-bet, I think I need to isolate. I'm sitting here with the 3rd best hand in poker. The 3-better is going to be all in anyway, and I think I want to drive out everybody else in the hand who happens to have an ace or a king, or maybe a pocket pair that's set mining. So I 4-bet up to 275, +1 folds. The cutoff is of course all in for 192, and the button folds. So we're heads up all in with some dead money in there as well, hoping to avoid an ace or a king, and that doesn't happen. Flop comes out 6-5 deuce. The turn is the ace and a river is a 4. It doesn't matter as the cutoff shows pocket aces. I was drawing to 2 outs the whole time, and we chipped down a little bit on this cooler queens against aces. Happy with how I played this one. That's just how it be sometimes. We double up aces and hope that the queens are nicer to us next time around. Would you look at that? We've got pocket queens once again. Last hand of the night. I'm under the gun and raised to 15 before getting 3-bet by the aggressive player in the hijack. He makes it 45. I think that's a fair price, and I decide to just make the call with plans of check raising a lower board. Flop comes 10 deuce deuce with a couple diamonds. I check, and my opponent avoids my trap as he checks it back. Turn is the 5 of clubs, and since my opponent is more on the aggressive side, I think I can set that trap one more time. I check, and now he goes for the bet, making it $60. I put the check raise in. I don't want to make it too big as I actually want him to put in the call here. The way this hand is played out and the range that I've put my opponent on makes me think that I'm in a pretty commanding lead. So I go a little bit smaller than normal and I make it 150, hoping to get called, but obviously okay if I end up taking it down. The hijack thinks it over and pays to see the ugly river that comes in the ace of diamonds. It's probably pretty unlikely that my opponent has a combination of diamonds that would have gotten there on the river, but he does have a lot of ace-high hands. Since this is such a bad card for me, I think I'm going to play the check call game. I say this because if I bet, he's certainly folding all the lower pairs that he has, and if he's got me beat, he's either calling or raising me. So I elect to check out of position, and he puts me in a tough spot, making it 130 to go. I actually would probably prefer it if he went a little bit bigger because I think this sizing is just so value heavy. The thought crosses my mind of trying to turn my queens into a bluff, as I could have a hand like pocket tens that just decided to get super tricky, but in the end I think my opponent is just too aggressive for that to work. This probably should be a fold, but I put in the call expecting to see my opponent with ace-x of clubs, and that's what he has. He's got ace-king of clubs. He turned the flush draw, decided to bet it and stick around after I check raised him, and he hits top pair on the river. Probably a waste of $130 putting in this call, but against a player who's capable of bluffing, I just couldn't find the fold button. Unfortunate run out. Nice hand for him. It is what it is. We end up rocking up and cashing out for the day. What a session. Oh, poor Benji. Benji had a rough day. Kings into aces, kings into my set. That was pretty brutal, but I've been there. Another positive session. Let's go. It's always a good sign when you're in for only that initial buy-in, and that's what happened to me. I was in for 500. I got my stack up as high as 1,700 at one point before the queens were a little bit costly. Running into aces is just going to happen, but then that second queens hand, I need to find the fold with the bad river there. Nice play by my opponent, milking me for another $130 on a bad river. But overall, we cashed out for $1,200 for a profit of $700. Not bad for a 4-hour session. That first hand was a little bit weird. I'm not really sure if I like how I played it or not, because the turn gave me some showdown value. I was still open-ended, but I couldn't figure out what my opponent had. Ace-king came through for us quite a bit last night. That was nice. Curious to hear your thoughts on the king-queen hand that I had. I typically will 3-bet king-queen, but I was on the button, I was in position, and the razor was on the tighter side. So I decided to just see a flop. I hit top pair, somebody donks, and then the initial raiser comes over the top on a king high board. I felt like he either has ace king or aces there. So I'm drawing pretty thin. Felt like I was behind him and I didn't know what the donker had either. So I decided there would just be better times. Let me know in the comments, do you like that fold or not? Yeah. It's nice when it goes well. We've now had a few lucky sessions in a row. Let's hope we keep stringing them together. Don't really have much more to add than that, but I'm looking forward to see what you thought about this in the comments. Let me know where I can get better and why. I'm not always going to agree, but I love to see people's rationale for why they would do things a certain way. So let me know in the comments, help me get better, and hopefully you are running as good as I ran in this session. I'm Wes. Thanks for watching Poker for Pound Pups. We'll see you next time.
Hey everybody, subscribe here to catch the latest episodes. Also, hit that like button and share these videos with anyone who might enjoy them. Doing that really helps the channel and its goal to support dog shelters, so thanks for watching Poker for Pound Pups, and have a great day.